I used to work the night shift at a distribution warehouse on the edge of town. It was one of those massive buildings with endless rows of shelves stacked high with boxes, and at night, the silence inside was almost suffocating. Most nights, it was just me and one other worker, but on this particular night, I was completely alone. My partner had called in sick, so I was tasked with finishing an overnight inventory. Around 1 a.m., I was scanning items when I heard the faint sound of footsteps echoing down one of the aisles. At first, I thought it was just my imagination because sound carries strangely in an empty building. But the footsteps came again, steady, deliberate, and getting closer. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling a little. No answer. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe a supervisor had come in early. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure at the end of the aisle, just standing there, completely still. The lights flickered for a moment, and when they came back on, the figure was gone dark. My skin crawled. I quickly walked down another aisle to finish scanning, but the sound of footsteps followed me. Slower now, like whoever it was wanted me to know they were there. I used to work the night shift at a distribution warehouse on the edge of town. It was one of those massive buildings with endless rows of shelves stacked high with boxes, and at night, the silence inside was almost suffocating. Most nights, it was just me and one other worker, but on this particular night, I was completely alone. My partner had called in sick, so I was tasked with finishing an overnight inventory. I finally grabbed my phone and called my supervisor, whispering what was happening. He told me to stay put and that he was sending security to check. While I waited, I hid near a stack of boxes. The warehouse was silent again until I heard breathing. Deep, heavy breathing right behind the boxes I was crouched next to. I froze, my heart pounding so loudly I thought whoever it was would hear it. I didn't move until I saw flashlight beams sweeping through the aisles. Security had finally arrived. I jumped out and waved them down. But when they searched the building, there was no one there. The only thing they found was a set of muddy footprints leading all the way to the back door, which was wide open. The scary part, the door only locked from the inside. Back when I was 20, I worked the graveyard shift at a small gas station off the highway. It was the kind of place where only truckers or drifters stopped in the middle of the night. Most nights were uneventful, but one night around 3 a.m., I noticed a car parked at the far corner of the lot. Its headlights were off, and I couldn't see anyone inside. It sat there for at least 20 minutes. Finally, the door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a hooded sweatshirt, and he didn't come straight into the store. Instead, he just stood by the pump, staring at me through the glass. I got an uneasy feeling, so I pretended to be busy stocking shelves. But when I glanced back, he was closer, standing right outside the glass door now. He hadn't made a sound. I jumped a little and said through the door, "Do you need something?" He just smiled, lifted his hand, and tapped a single finger against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I locked the door immediately and grabbed the phone to call the police. When I looked back, he was gone. Or so I thought, because seconds later, I heard movement near the side of the building. I peeked out the small side window, and there he was crouched low, trying to see inside. The police arrived about 10 minutes later, but of course, by then he was gone. They did a quick sweep of the property and told me to keep the doors locked until sunrise. When I went to close up, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. On the glass door where he had tapped, there were greasy smudges in the shape of lips. He hadn't just been smiling at me. He had been kissing the glass while staring inside. I worked as a janitor at a hospital for a couple of years, and night shifts were always the strangest. Hospitals at night feel different: the quiet halls, the buzzing of fluorescent lights, and the way every sound seems to echo. One night I was assigned to clean the basement storage area. Hardly anyone went down there, and I honestly hated it. The air always felt colder, and the lights flickered constantly. As I pushed my cart down the hallway, I thought I heard faint humming. A soft female voice singing some tune I didn't recognize. At first, I thought maybe it was another staff member, but as I turned each corner, the humming always seemed just a little further away. Eventually, I reached the storage room. I opened the door, and the humming stopped instantly. I froze, scanning the room, but it was completely empty. Trying to shake it off, I started mopping. That's when the door slowly creaked shut behind me. I rushed over, thinking maybe it was just the air, but when I tried the handle, it wouldn't budge. I was locked inside. I banged on the door, calling out, but no one answered. Then I heard it again, that humming. But now it was coming from inside the room with me. I spun around, and in the far corner, barely illuminated by the flickering light, was a woman. She was pale, with long black hair, covering most of her face, and she was just standing there, swaying slightly as she hummed. I backed against the door, shaking, and then the light flickered off completely. When it came back on, the room was empty. The door swung open on its own, and I bolted out of there without even grabbing my cart. To this day, I refuse to take shifts that involve cleaning the basement, and when I asked some of the older staff about it, they told me stories of a nurse who had taken her own life in that very room decades ago. Those were 3 disturbing true night shift horror stories from workers. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.